can see the underside of Taiwan-made Singer. This machine has had a broken alpha gear. The alpha gear is this small feed gear, and then there used to be in the first, when it appeared on, say, the touch and sews and things like that, this gear, larger gear, was a separate piece, and then the feed system was timed separately. But as they continued making these in Taiwan and Brazil and wherever, they decided to make this gear and the feed cams basically one piece. So this is but this alpha gear still fails, and I need to put a new one on here. This machine also has square cut hook gears, but this hook gear here is supposed to be, isn't really designed to be replaced. So getting this apart to fix it was actually a bit of a challenge, and I'm gonna go through as I reassemble notes about what had to be done. So as you can see, the front cover has been slid off. This machine has a front and rear cover. You are supposed to remove the rear cover first, and then the front cover can come off, and you have to get the front cover out of the way to get this main lower shaft to slide far enough to release that gear. So I was lucky. This machine already had a broken bracket up in the top here, so it released the front. As I was loosening screws, it released the front cover without having to take the back cover off to access the screw that was broken. But this main shaft, there's the pulley for the vertical belt drive from the upper to lower, and I've got my new gear, and I need to make sure that the set screws are loosened in it so that it will slip onto the shaft. And I was hoping not to do that, but if you loosen them, there's really only a couple threads to hold them in the gear. So if you're worried about dropping them, take them all the way out. The gear is supposed to face this way, but you can also face it the other direction. It engages the same both ways. So I'm gonna just slip it on facing this way, and then as we move, you have to make sure that the feed here isn't in the way of the shaft coming through. And now the shaft is slid far enough in for this cover so that cover can just settle back in place. Which I guess I need to look closer and see why it won't settle back in. But the other thing to note is as the shaft comes out by the hook gears, we have to put this hook drive gear in place. So I'm going to move the camera to get a better view of that. And when I got in here, the broken alpha gear was covered in goop, and this gear here was covered with goop, which I've already scrubbed off. The old grease, this is definitely a lifetime lubricated disposable machine that if you aren't taking care and greasing and oiling and having serviced, the original grease is old enough that it's hardening, and it's no longer lubricating, it's just becoming grit in the machine. Alright, so the shaft has a split on the end, and then this hook gear has a cross split to fit that slot, and you need to on the end here was a spring washer and a plain washer, and then wait, no, I got those the wrong order. It's the plain washer and then the spring washer. Alright, plain washer, spring washer, the gear, and then in here is a slot for this E-clip. So I'm going to pop that E-clip into the slot. E-clip, washer, spring washer, gear, and then that shaft slides in to provide our hook drive gear with a little bit of pressure on the main hook gear. As you can see, this gear has been cleaned, not scrubbed out with a toothbrush, but it also was covered with the rock, grimy, hardened grease. So, alright, with that drive gear in place, now we can come back and put the covers back on. Once the covers are on, we'll get to time the feed and then time the hook. The front here, like I said, this front cover is supposed to be the last piece to come off, but on this machine, the tab back here that holds it on was already broken off. So when I went and removed the dial here, that just came apart. So I'm going to set the knobs on the front here. And I've got a trim screw on the needle bar area. Now the knob here has this pin, that groove in this white piece, and that groove fits on here, so we need to start with the center white piece and then gently there. Turn the machine, turn this dial until the other parts of it set in place. This dial is held in place with a snap ring. So There are snap ring pliers in there, and then push it. I'm almost certain this, yeah, this, I thought there was a groove on this. Oh wait, I didn't get that dial in far enough. That's why I'm... There we go. Alright. So you note the dial pushes in. There we go. It has to get pushed in far enough for these clips to go down into the groove on this white collar, and then there's no groove for the snap ring to fit on. It's just in there clamping the dial into the groove on, clamping the plastic against the groove that the plastic clips on the dial fit into. There we go. And then our center button has 3 positions. So I'm just going to put it in kind of centered. Yep, because the motion on that is sort of centered. This has got that center dial that turns for balancing your buttonhole stitch. Alright, so this in, that front cover together. I'm going to turn this on its back again right now. Because we have to time the whole lower section of this machine, I'm just picking a spot for this. Okay. Yep. So the lower belt pulley is going to get tightened on first, so that this pulley is turning the shaft, and then because the shaft is then free to move, we will rotate the machine until the needle bar is all the way at its lowest position, and then align the feed cam with the alignment marks on it, which this one happens to have an arrow and a mark over here, and I'll get a photo on the side here. Some of these have various alpha gear setups had different marks. Some of them use this line to align with a tab here, or they'll have a tab on this side that lines up here. This one actually has a few different spots, but there's an arrow cast into the side of here, which I'm going to use and see how the feed turns out. So with our marks lined up, we'll put a set screw into our alpha gear, and then we'll do some checking on the feed travel Timing is correct here. We got the needle clamp coming down at the lowest point. Feed dogs come up, move back. They drop as the needle bar is coming down. That actually was a different mark than I tried the first time, but I've checked it, corrected it, and now we have the good feed action. We will move on to our hook.